Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
The Daily Compliance News for March 10, 2025. The Measles at Dulles edition, and we begin with that story from Forbes, which reports that Maryland health officials announced on Sunday that a resident who has traveled internationally has tested positive for measles. Of course, this means that anyone at the airport he traveled through is potentially exposed, and so travelers on March 5th may have been exposed. This is obviously a very infectious disease, and with the Trump administration's attempt to destroy all vaccines, which might help it, it's going to be a critical component of America's travel infrastructure going forward. And the health officials, no, state health official, not federal, says anyone who traveled at Dulles' international arrivals or was there on March 5 between 4 and 9 should be tested for measles. Next up, last Friday, Paul Clement released his report on whether what the judge should do in the Eric Adams case, and it's a completely damning report to the Department of Justice. He said that the court should dismiss the claims with prejudice, meaning they could not be brought again. A dismissal without prejudice creates a palpable sense that the prosecution could renew its claim against the mayor of New York, and that's clearly an inappropriate quid pro quo in the American legal system. The judge is not legally bound to accept the recommendation, but Clement's guidance is likely to be influential, given that the judge requested this input. On Friday evening, a spokesman for Mr. Adams said that it was appropriate for the court to dismiss all charges. Of course, the DOJ wants to keep the charges open so they can force the mayor of New York to bend to their will on whatever Donald Trump may want him to do. Also from the New York Times, the Trump administration announces an inquiry to see if egg producers are overcharging, and will focus on potential antitrust violations by the country's largest egg producers. So when you restrict supply because your birds die and you have a smaller supply and the price goes up, well, in the Trump world, that may be an illegal antitrust violation. It's going to be difficult to see how this could play out, but given the huge rise in egg prices and the continued rise, and probably through the end of the year, it's going to be something that I think consumers are going to be more concerned about, and the government has to try and look like they're doing something. And finally, from Reuters, Boeing must face a shareholder class action following the MAX 9 blowout. A federal judge on Friday certified a class action against Boeing for prioritizing profit over safety and overstating its commitment to safe aircraft prior to January 24, 2024, in the mid-air cabin panel blowout. So more woes for Boeing. At the start of this podcast, the sponsor for the entire Compliance Podcast Network is Ethico. Well, Ethico has a great new offering this month for you, a toolkit for middle managers. This is something that you, as the compliance professional, can use to move your compliance program forward by giving middle managers the skills necessary to answer a call for speak up, or when someone comes in their office and raises a concern. I can't think of a tool that will be more valuable for you in the current era of enforcement. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.